looks like we have slowed down on the individuals logging in, so let's go ahead and get started. Everyone, thank you for joining us today. As you learned in our email, today we're going to conduct a webinar that focuses on the new horizons that we're chasing after with SendMyAd. Now, if any of you in the audience aren't currently using SendMyAd, or if you're not familiar with the platform, to give you a brief background, SendMyAd is a tool that's designed to automate the entire materials collection workflow as it pertains to advertising. From requesting materials, pre-flighting those materials for issues that would compromise how they appear in the print or digital world, immediately informing the advertiser of the issues found within those materials, providing even suggestions to the advertiser how to resolve those issues, all the way to approving and then automatically delivering your final materials. So SendMyAd as it functions now, of course, it does work within print and digital ads, but we're looking to greatly expand that. So for today's webinar, we're going to be focused on a new digital ads prototype that we're developing. And this module within SendMyAd specifically addresses the challenges that our brands in publishing and around the world face in regards to collecting multifaceted ad materials. So what I mean by that, what we found is that there is a significant struggle when collecting images, videos, text, links that all come together to form one ad. And not only in just receiving those materials in an organized fashion, but also receiving materials that can actually be used in their respective mediums. So today we're going to break our webinar into two parts, really. The first part is going to be utilizing SendMyAd to collect those assets for social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Part two will focus on receiving similar assets. Again, we talk about images, videos, text, links, and things of that nature, but meant for a different purpose, kind of in the native ad or e-newsletter realm, if you will. So as I mentioned, we're breaking that into two parts. My partner Josh will be presenting for us today. If you guys have questions, I encourage you to submit those via the chat right when they pop into your brain. We want to be able to answer those. Today, we're really looking for your input on the prototype that we've developed so far and how we should enhance this moving forward. Of course, we want to be aware what challenges you're facing in the digital ads workflow, where you're finding success in digital ad opportunities. Is that social media? Is that native ads? Would that be in the e-newsletter realm? You know, where are the digital ad opportunities taking you as a business? Of course, we'd like to know the challenges you're facing in collecting those materials and your overall opinion on the prototypes that we have to show you today. So again, please ask those questions. We'll answer them intermittently, and at the end, as we flow through this, we can hop around and show different things. With that being said, Josh, I'm going to pass this off to you. And again, everyone, thank you for attending, and we look forward to showing you our new prototype.
Thanks, Mitch. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, I can.
Great. All right, so just to give everyone a little background before we get started, this is actually a design prototype done within Adobe XD. So for this particular feature, we're not showing our live product. These are artboards that we've created, which are linked together. So you may see me skipping around a little bit, but this is basically our process of developing new features so that we can get feedback and iterate on the user experience before we write any code. So what you see here is our media profile screen. Our first objective is to make a Facebook feed ad template available for use within one of our media profiles, and then send a materials request to an advertiser to fill. Now, media profiles are pretty loosely based. In this demo, you can imagine a media profile being based on a website, which also has a social media presence. So let's go ahead and make this social media ad template available for use within the fashion-forward media profile. Here you can see that we have some settings related to the media profile, but what we want to do is click this Add Units tab. You can see that we have some existing ad units. They're just simple, singular image ad units, such as leaderboard, which is basically commonly used. But what we want to do is add a social media ad template, and we can do this by clicking on Add Social Templates. Now, within this pop-up, you can see a list of templates that are available to be added into your media profile for use. So for now, we're just going to add the Facebook feed ad, which is an image-based template. So now you can see within this left column that's available for use. Within the right column, you can see the list of components that make up this ad unit. You can see that we've got the image, primary text, headline text, description text, the website URL, the display link for that URL, and a call to action. These are all exactly what Facebook requires from their image-based feed ad. And this blurb basically states that the components within this ad unit are not editable. And that's because whenever Facebook eventually decides to update their ad requirements, we'll be able to push that update to all of our customers as well.
And Josh, to interject a thought there, our idea in this is that we don't want our business partners to have to keep up with all the ever-changing rules of the different social media platforms, because as we all know, they're updated constantly. And with us managing this portion of the workflow, not necessarily even touching on the advertiser aspect of things, we're making sure that your ads are in compliance with these different social media platforms. So by making this something that directly interfaces with Facebook, for example, you know that your ad components are exactly what are needed in this specific realm.
So now that this ad unit is available for use, we can actually request materials for this Facebook feed ad from the advertiser. So we'll go to create ad request and we'll select the digital ad type. We'll then fill out the form with items such as campaign, media profile, the advertiser that will be requesting materials from, and the run period. Finally, we'll choose the ad unit that we just made for the Facebook feed ad. And from here, we can click Create Materials Requests, which will fire off a notification to the advertiser. So now let's switch our perspective. We're now working from the advertiser's point of view. They've received an email notification and clicked the link to bring them to our new materials request, which is right here. The blue box signifies a materials request that hasn't been filled. So let's move forward as the advertiser and complete this request. So here you can see within this left panel that we have a template up for the Facebook feed ad. It's full of placeholders right now. We'll fill the materials in a second, but the first thing we have to do is fill out any custom metadata in the right panel that the publisher's agency has set up. So let's act as if we fill that out. And then we'll click on step 2 in order to begin filling our materials. So now you can see that the right panel is updated to show you all the components that are part of that Facebook feed ad template. You can also see the required specifications for each component. So let's go ahead and add our materials. And you can see that the template will update as materials are added. If there are any problems with materials or text that are added, we'll warn the user in this right column that there's no problems here. So from here, we can submit our materials request, which will then refresh to show us that basically the advertiser has approved everything. And we're going to go to the ad details view. At this point, the owner of this portal, who is you guys, the publisher or the agency, would receive a notification that the advertiser has filled the materials request. So now you can see within this ad details view that our left panel holds that metadata that we filled out. And the right panel holds the components, but also holds this new ad status panel. So from here, the ad can be rejected, it can be approved. And once its primary approval is done, you, the publisher, the agency, have the option to set up custom approval cycles that can notify the different team members that their approval is required. So once all the approvals are done and the ad's finalized, you have the option to deliver the materials to locations such as SFTP or Dropbox. And we can also trigger any type of event that we have available on an approval. So this kind of concludes the social media ad template demo. So Mitch, do you want to kind of take it from here?
Yeah, so I think worth noting, as you guys are familiar with the way that SendMyAd functions, Of course, if let's say, for example, the image that was uploaded that pertains to this is the wrong size, or the website URL is not actually a valid link, and maybe it has to include HTTPS and it doesn't, something of that nature, we're going to flag those errors just like we would as we're doing now in the print or standard digital type of ads that we're doing. So if the advertiser submits something that isn't going to work on Facebook, we're going to reject that on your behalf and educate them how to correct it. Also, we can set this up to make sure that if they don't include all of the materials needed, I think one of the issues that is so pressing on agencies and publishers is receiving the text in one email, the image in another email, the link in a third email, and that disconnect just creates an incredible problem. So with this, we can make sure that they can't submit any component of this unless they submit the entirety of the ad. And also those components, of course, have to be perfect for whichever channel they're meant to appear in. So again, in alignment with what these different social media platforms are doing, our system will work in sync with those. I would love to ask, the members of our audience, what social media channels are you focused on advertising opportunities? What challenges do you have collecting the materials for social media channels? Are there social media platforms that are outside the norm of, what we all consider the day-to-day social media tools that we use? Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Those are some really standard ones, but we'd be interested to learn if there are some that kind of go off the beaten path out there that we're not addressing that would benefit our partners by hosting those types of ads in the platform. So guys, if you would, submit your feedback to those points. Like I said, we'd love to know your challenges, your thoughts on presenting the advertiser with this type of display so they can get an idea what their ad will look like on a specific social media platform. We found that that can be a good experience for the advertiser, but let us know. We'd love to hear your feedback on that. Moving into the second half of our webinar, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, we're going to be focusing on these same types of assets, text, images, links, even videos, but meant for a different medium. And the examples that I've used are native ads or within e-newsletters and things of that nature. But really, we know that these assets can be served in a multitude of different areas in the digital world. It may be something that we're not considering. So if, again, just like with social media, if there are different places that these ads end up, or you find you have a significant sales opportunity for a specific digital ad that is made up of these types of components, let us know, and please educate us on what those might be. And with that, Josh, I'll let you go into the second half.
Sure. All right, so now what I'll do is show you how to create this custom ad unit group within our Modern Design website media profile here. This will follow a very similar workflow as our previous demo. So from here, I'll just click on Modern Design website. We'll go to Add Units. Now this time we'll just click the Add button. And you'll see a form pop up on your right-hand side, and we'll select the ad unit type of custom ad unit group. And what we'll do is we'll call this a native ad. So this is basically an ad that we want to showcase on our own website that we're going to request materials for. Now you can see that we have the ability to add or remove these custom components within this ad unit group. What we want to do is create an ad unit that contains different components such as image, headline, body, and link. So let's go ahead and add these components. So you can see that we can actually reuse components that we've created already that are actually ad units. So the first thing we're going to do is select the square image. Next, I'll do our text, so it's going to be a headline. Now I'm going to create this on the fly, so we'll select text here and we'll fill it out as native ad headline, and we'll do a max character limit of 80. Next, I'll do the body text. And that'll be a max character limit 255. And then finally, we'll do a link. The link is a little bit different than the text. You've got your display URL, and then you've got the actual link. And like we were talking earlier, you're going to want to require HTTPS or not, and we're also going to validate if it's a true link or not. So now we've got all the components that we need to make up this native ad. So let's go ahead and create the materials request just as we did before. So we'll fill out the request form with all our details. And you can see that we've got our advertiser will be audio at this time. We're going to request the materials from jsmith@audio.com, and we're going to select the native ad. And we're going to create the materials request. So now again, let's flip our point of view to the advertiser. So we'll go to our materials request that we need to fill. And we're back at our materials request view. So you can see that our template looks pretty simplistic and reflects the components that we set up within our ad unit. We've got our image, we've got our headline, body, and link. But first, let's fill out the required metadata. Then we'll click on step 2 to add materials. And we'll add the materials just as we did before. And by the way, we'll be adding more options to further style these custom ad unit group previews. We'll give options for vertical versus horizontal layouts, as well as some element styling, such as font size, font color, things like that. The point is to portray to the advertiser what the ad will eventually look like so that the ad can confidently be approved by the advertiser. So from here, we'll just click submit. And again, you can now see our ad details view. Left-hand panel has the metadata, right-hand panel has the ad status and the components. And from here, you can begin your approval cycles and have the ad finalized and delivered to whatever location of your choosing. So that wraps up our custom ad unit demo, and I'll hand it back to Mitch to kind of wrap things up and get any questions we have.
That's perfect, Josh. So, guys, I see your questions flowing in as well, and we'll start answering those. Like Josh mentioned, and this is really collecting the same assets, but for different areas. And this is really our shell for our prototype at this point. So your feedback is going to be what really drives the extended development, if you will, on what we add to this workflow. If you see things that you think should occur in a certain order, if you think there should be different areas of flexibility, different features, or if we should be accounting for different ad types, definitely let us know. With that being said, let's start to run through a few of the questions that we have. The first question that we have is, can we deliver digital ads to different locations, meaning that each project can deliver to a different location? And the answer to that is yes. One of the things that we're already doing within SendMyAd, of course, is automated delivery. When an ad is approved and it reaches that final step of approval, we know it's perfect and it's ready to be served on whichever channel. Yes, we can customize a specific ad type to go to a specific destination. Your Facebook ads may go to one place where your native ads may go to a different area. And one of the things that SendMyAd is set up to do is customize each ad type to deliver to a different location. You can also have a singular ad type be delivered to multiple delivery destinations at one time. So maybe that Facebook ad is going to 2 separate locations. So we can accommodate both of those. The answer to that question would be yes. Second question, can an advertiser submit ads if you didn't first send the materials request? So we understand not all of our publishing and agency partners are utilizing ad requests dependent on their needs within a workflow. The answer to this question would be yes. SendMyAd is designed around flexibility. We know that not every brand, publisher, or agency works in the same fashion. And of course, not every advertiser responds the same way to technology. That being the case, it's our job to remain flexible. And that's a tool within the platform that you can choose to utilize. You can make it to where they can only submit ads that pertain to a materials request. You can have the system wide open to collect ads at any time. Again, that based for any publisher or brand. You can change those rules for your own account. Moving through more of these, I'm going to start from the bottom. Let's say you deliver print and digital images to Dropbox. Would you be able to deliver the text in the same way? The answer to that question would be yes, you would. So the idea behind this, and we welcome your feedback, is to really deliver an ad package. So you essentially retrieve a singular delivery, and within that ad package, you have the images, the text, the link, all within one succinct delivery. So that ends up, if you're familiar with the way we would deliver print ads, for example, that would end up in the specific folder it was meant to inside one ad package containing each of these individual assets. And Josh, as I'm answering these, if you have anything to add on, please let me know.
Sure.
Another question, do you have to create the image size for the native ad before you create the native ad? So the answer here would kind of be yes and no. You don't have to have a pre-existing, let's say, rectangle size before you begin creating that ad. You could create that ad size while you're creating the native ad. Now, moving forward, that would be an available ad size for you to add to these ad group units like we're speaking about, but you could really do them in unison with one another. So let's say that didn't exist. To create that new ad spec would be very streamlined in the same timing that you're creating the actual, let's say, native ad package. Be very easy to do.
Be flexible as far as pre-flooding. You don't have to require them to send exactly 1200 by 800 or whatever it is. It can be arranged with a minimum max of, let's say, 1200 wide max, 900 wide minimum, and then the height can be flexible as well. So you don't really have to lock people into doing exact dimensions if you don't want to. And we can also pre-flight for resolution and things of that nature.
Perfect. Another question, how would we organize the downloading of assets that then they can post and use in various spaces? The answer to that question is we would hope to eliminate the need for that. As opposed to requiring you to manually download these assets, our goal would be to automate the delivery of these assets to a destination of your choosing where they would then be stored permanently, and you would be in a position to utilize these assets in those various spaces as you saw fit. So once the ad was approved, as opposed to requiring you to, again, conduct that manual download, we would ideally like to understand where would you be placing that file that you would otherwise be manually downloading so that we can automate that delivery and remove that step from the process. So that's something that we do currently within SendMyAd. It's a feature that already exists. And again, our goal is to eliminate as much manual work as possible, and downloading those assets for permanent storage and to be used in various spaces certainly falls under that umbrella.
And Mitch, a good point that Wendy may have, and Wendy, we would have to kind of get more into the details of how you guys work. But that brings up an idea that we could have something below this digital ads menu item that actually is called assets in it. Let's say, Wendy, you might want to reuse an image that an advertiser uploaded in a different space for whatever reason. You might be able to see a list of all those assets beneath your digital ads list here. Just kind of brainstorming, thinking of different ways you could access that stuff and have it organized in such a way to where you can access it within SendMyAd. But no doubt you can definitely do what Mitch is suggesting also, which is a primary way of delivering the assets to whatever location you need it to be at.
Absolutely. A question, how do we define how native ads look? That question goes further to say, do we copy in HTML and reference a style sheet? Josh, I'll let you expand on this, but I think right now that's an area of this module that we're looking to expand upon. Right now we're focusing on a horizontal or vertical type of display, but we would certainly like to be in a position to offer the most accurate displays possible. Understanding for every publisher, yes, we know they're going to be looking a little bit different from website to website, but it is our goal to give the best representation possible. So Josh, I'll let you expand on that a little bit because I know you have more knowledge on it than I do.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ambrose, basically, our idea right now is that a lot of these native ads, especially in today's space, are responsive. So they're going to fit into a way where the image is responsive, the container is responsive, the text is responsive. Now, we do realize that, a lot of websites have different color backgrounds and different size fonts and different font families. So what we imagine instead of an actual style sheet is within the settings view that I showed you earlier, whenever you're setting up the components, you'd be able to pick from a layout style, which is vertical or horizontal. And we can actually make that even more complex if we wanted to create some type of layout builder within our software. And instead of creating an actual style sheet that you can edit inline, what we're thinking is we can just allow for the styling of particular elements. So let's say that whenever we're looking at, excuse me while I go right back to this view, whenever we're looking at this view, you would have the ability to set up vertical or horizontal. And possibly here, if this is text, you'd be able to select what the font family is, what the font size is, what the font color is. So really giving you options on the front end to style these elements instead of having to write CSS on the back end and try and match it up perfectly.
Excellent. Another question, this one comes from Derek. Do we have any API integrations with popular CRM systems such as Salesforce or Launchpad? And part two of that question, can SendMyAd push materials to predefined folders in Dropbox or Google Drive? So I'll answer that in two parts. We have a very robust API that does allow us for those type of connections with sales CRM systems. And Derek, we can speak about this specifically for the ones that you're mentioning. We'll follow up with that. But the short answer to that is yes, our API is designed in a way specifically with CRMs in mind to be able to have those connections to automate things like the creation of materials requests. Of course, with any API, there's always programming involved, but our API is robust and is very friendly toward working with those other systems. The second part of your question, can we push materials to a folder in Dropbox or Google Drive? We are currently pushing materials to Dropbox, so that's an absolute yes. I would have to do more digging on Google Drive. Of course, I don't know every delivery destination set up, but being that we are delivering to Dropbox and Google Drive functions in a similar fashion, I wouldn't see that being an issue. Josh, of course, you can expand on that more than I, but I'm inclined to say yes to both of those questions, Derek.
Yeah, we would just have to look into the integration for Google Drive, but I'm sure being Google, they've made it, highly accessible. We can do it for Dropbox now, so.
Absolutely. What happens when ad specs change for native ads, as an example? Can we simply change that ad info and SendMyAd so that future ads are collected without losing past ad info? So if you're familiar at all with the interface as it stands now, you can go in and edit pre-existing specifications for ad sizes. And that won't compromise the ad materials that we're already storing within SendMyAd. What it would do is, moving forward, change the expectations for your pre-flighting for that specific ad specification. So if you change the size of, let's say, the image or the character count that you're expecting in a native ad, moving forward, when you receive new materials, it would fall underneath the guidelines for the edits that you've made. Your past materials would remain unaffected, as we're already storing those and they are finalized files that are no longer in need of pre-flight. A follow-up question to that: are digital files renamed similar to how print ads are renamed? So yes, our custom naming conventions and the variables that we use for those naming conventions, yes, those would apply to these ads as well, specifically when it comes to delivery and things of that nature. Our naming convention system is designed on really a huge list of different options that are available to you, and then you choose among those options for how you want your files named upon delivery. So that's flexible, specifically for the brand, agency, publisher that you're working with. So the answer to that would be yes. And guys, I know this is a question that's coming in from all different angles. The question around cost. The simple answer to that is it's impossible to answer that directly on a webinar with a large audience, because our pricing is variable based on things like volume and stuff like that for every customer. So 4 questions about cost, we'll answer those individually. There are always a few components that play into the cost for ad transactions and things of that nature. And it's really different for everyone based on, like I said, volume and workflow. So for those, we'll follow up specifically on your questions about the cost. We have your contact information associated with the question. Let's see. We use GAM, which allows for one ad format to appear in some. Okay, thank you, Ambrose. I appreciate you.
Mitch, I'd like to take this one if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Right before this webinar, I was coming to this point, Ambrose, where I was thinking, this customer may want to upload materials to this Facebook feed ad image, but they might want to reuse all these materials for, let's say, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and also natively. So one roadblock here is that Each of these different platforms require different specifications for images and text. And they also require other elements that are slightly different. One might include a different row of text, which might not be included in another. So what I was thinking is that once you've got an ad that's completed, let's say it's the Facebook ad, we then allow you to possibly pick it up and push it over to other platforms, such as, let's say we wanted to go to native and Twitter and LinkedIn. Well, there comes a point where you probably have to map those fields to the other social media fields. I mean, I'm sure we can pick up image to image and headline to headline, but there might be leftover description text and things of that nature that you might have to physically edit whenever you push it over or pick it up to this other platform. So we would probably allow something like that as a pickup ability, and you probably have to map your fields appropriately to the next item. But that's certainly something that we'll be able to do, and we'll take into consideration of using specific materials and sending them to those different platforms instead of just having to do it for every single one individually.
Perfect. Thank you, Josh. Well, guys, it looks as if I don't see any new questions that have popped in. If we have missed your question, we will, of course, give a few minutes if there's anything that we overlooked to re-ask, or if new questions have popped up. Guys, feel free to submit those. As I mentioned, we will go through this after, and any direct questions that we weren't able to answer on this directly, we'll reach out to you. Expect a follow-up email. We'll have the recording of this posted on our YouTube channel. We'll also send out a link to that with a follow-up email. We'll also be sending you guys an email asking for further engagement. We have specific questions that we're hoping to answer stemming from this webinar, so you'll expect to see that as well. And as I said, we'll make the recording available as soon as possible. If no one has any other questions, let's see. It looks like Jason has submitted a question. Do we have a timetable for when this might roll out? Josh, I'll let you take that, understanding that we're going to be using a lot of the feedback for this on development, but I'll let you field that question how you see fit.
Yeah, sure. So basically, this is phase one of gathering all the information that we need, of course. Once we get more information, we'll kind of dig in a little bit deeper. As far as development, it shouldn't take too long to do the actual development part, because we have the base of this actually developed already. We have a digital ads platform. We have our singular ad specs that can be uploaded to when materials can be requested. The bulk of the development is actually building out this ad group concept and going through basically this UI that you see here. So I would say that 1 to 2 months is a good time frame, but again, that all depends on the feedback that we receive, how much we decide to change, and we'll just go from there and keep you guys updated on the progress. And again, this is why we do this with this prototype, so that we can iterate on this design and then come back to you again with any changes we've made, so that we can make sure that we get it right before we start any coding at all.
Excellent. Thank you, Josh. All right, guys, like I said, we will remain here as long as necessary if more questions roll in. Appreciate all the engagement, guys. These are fantastic questions. And again, certainly gets the ball rolling for us from a planning aspect. If you guys don't have any more questions, feel free to jump off. Josh and I will remain here to answer any that you have. And again, we appreciate everybody joining. All right, Josh, I think it is safe for us to go ahead and log off, and then I will create the recording. Appreciate your time. Anyone else who's left, have a great day. If you do have questions, feel free to email us. You know, you can reach us at sales@blancis.com or email me directly. I think everyone remaining has my email address, so feel free to reach out. Thank you, guys.
All right, see you, Mitch.